All right, let's start it. So, guys, okay, since we were talking about and we were discussing about planning and scoping, let's continue over there. Few things are left regarding that, and which is your legal concepts. Yeah, it is very important for the pen testers to understand, the legal concepts like service agreements that you have mentioned that define the overall contract between the organization for engagement, statements of work, that will be defined the deliverables for those engagements, right? You can say your NDA, correct? That will be the one as you have mentioned before, like non-disclosure agreements that will protect the data and the information which are involved in your penetration testing, correct? So you must also be aware, I would say, of the legal and the regulatory environment in which both you and your target are operating, so that your testing process and your tools are legal over there, right? And I would say it is lastly, like it is very important to ensure that appropriate legal agreements with approvals from the proper signing authorities are in place, so that you are covered and safe whenever an event goes wrong, right? Because as we discussed yesterday in the last session, that our events can go wrong, like while doing the pen testing, something can happen in against of us, like you might leak out some sensitive information, or you might disrupt the services, the crucial ones, right? So everything should be done with the proper approvals, with the proper signing authorities, so that if anything goes wrong, if anything goes otherwise, you are safe enough, right? So nobody will be able to point towards you. So this will be helping you out. These legal concepts, they will be helping you. So obviously, as you mentioned, Mahesh, right now, country regulation. So yeah, definitely the part of is your local and national restrictions, you can say, right? So laws and regulations which are regarding cybercrime, they vary from country to country actually. So you need to do what you need to check the local laws before conducting an assessment, I would say, right? So you can say, kind of a consulting your attorney before performing any penetration testing work to ensure that you are within the legal bounds or the country laws where you are operating, right? So you have to look out for crime and criminal procedure, right? So there are like many sections listed having procedures to follow. Like for example, mandatory penalties for anyone who accesses the computer in an unauthorized manner or exceed one's access right? It can be used to prosecute or conduct the legal proceedings against the employees using the capabilities and accesses are provided by the company to conduct any fraudulent activity. So you should know about the local and national restriction. You should consult your attorney before doing any. So not just this, you can see, you need to have or you need to obtain the written authorization as well, guys. Obtain written authorization, I would say, like see, white hat hackers always get permissions, like these permissions, these written authorizations, what they do, like there is a terminology in this which is known as a jail free card. See, as we just mentioned, no, when we are talking about proper authorizations, proper authority signing those you know document, everything should be in a legal way, correct? So that if anything goes like, why it is called jail free card is because it is a document that will produce if that you will produce, like if something went wrong. So since you get the permission from the appropriate party, it can help you to stay out of trouble if something goes wrong, right? Because as I mentioned before, I will mention it now as well, that penetration test, they can expose confidential information. So permissions must be granted for that. Because let's suppose if you are doing pen testing and if you reveal or you expose some confidential information, company, like if you're not properly authorized, or if you have not done those documents or paperwork proper, so what they can do, like company can blame you for the entire thing, and then you will be going for the you will be going to prison, and then you have to serve over there for some period, correct? So these proper documentation, these proper authorization, proper signing from the appropriate you can say authority, helps you to you know get away from these kind of a things, right? So if something went wrong, this will be helping you to. So can we say it is a contract which is made between two or more parties in which they both will agree to most of the terms which are used to govern any future agreements as well, or for future transaction, right? So if we talk about this kind of an agreement is, kind of a useful, as it allows parties to negotiate any future agreements and transactions very quickly. Because, so like, you can think of this master service agreement as, you can say, foundations for any business conducted in the future, right? So the thing that makes it so appealing is that, the repeated negotiation doesn't have to involve all of the terms, but only those related to the deal at hand. So it will be, just a foundation. It will be just start at that particular, you can say, deals and agreement between two parties, and then for future, negotiations, they will do not have to go again from the starting, from the, you can say, starting from the zero. They'll be just talking about the deal which is on the hand, and they'll be discussing on the respect to that. Every foundation will be already set up. So can we say non-disclosure agreement, your NDA, these are the legal contracts which are outlining the confidential material, or you can say the information that will be shared during the assessment, and all the restrictions will be placed on it, like you cannot share it to the third party or extra individual or anyone else, right? Yes, Ranjit, it is a legal obligation not to disclose information to others which are not available to general public, right? So you'll be, it's like, when you join a company, you'll be signing an NDA that you cannot leak out these information of the company to anyone else, correct? Right? Clear, everyone, with these three terminologies of contracts: SOW, MSA, and NDA? Great. Interesting. Now we have some testing strategies. We have black box, we have white box, we have gray box, right? So we'll talk about them. Like, these are the, you can say, uh, when you are doing the penetration testing, these three types of testing will be there. Correct. So they'll be covering, like, you can say, what do corporate policies allow you to do? Have employees waive their privacy? What policy should be tested? The password strength, reuse, all those things will be covered in this particular testing strategies, right? That great, Mahesh. That's great. So starting from the black box testing, black box, right? So with just a name, it will be, pretty big world for you guys, and it will be just like, you don't have any other information apart from a name. Then you will be going on your own ways, trying to determine what your target is all about, finding its weaknesses, and then, trying to do its testing basically. So can we say, like, when we are doing black box testing, we will be comparing our pen tester as an, you can say, hacker only. Hacker as in, obviously he's an hacker. Guys, black hat hacker is the one which is having malicious intentions, like which those who do your, hacking and then exploiting your systems for the malicious purpose, they are known as a black hat hacker. So what happens with this black box testing? Since I'm not sharing any information with my pen tester, so that pen tester will be working as a, you know black hat hacker only. Make sense? Because now he'll be finding out those ways which your black hat hacker will be trying to find out. Correct? Make sense? Great. So when we do the black box testing, you can see, we are considering that our, like, for example, if Sayam, you are asking Sayam to do the black box testing. So when I do the black box testing, so after completing it, you can say that all those hackers, black hat hackers or the malicious hackers, those who are at the same level of Sayams, your systems, your network is protected from them. Correct? Taking the same example about InfoSec Train, if I share the entire source code with you guys, right, white box, then we have your gray box. What do you understand by gray box? Great. So if I say that, consider the same example of InfoSec Train, if I say now that do the testing of InfoSec Train, and now I'll be providing some username and ID and password to you, what kind of testing will it be? Gray box, right? So yes, correct. When you're having a partial knowledge, or you can say few knowledge about your target, that will be considered as your gray box testing. So these are what? These are a blend of both black box and white box testing. So gray box test may provide some information about the environment to the penetration testers without giving full access or credentials or configuration details to them, right? So it will be partial knowledge of a target. So it can be used as an internal test to simulate an insider attack with minimal knowledge, and it can also be used to decrease the information gathering stage so more that it can be spent on identifying vulnerabilities, right? So like if your IP range is provided, black box testing. Company emails is provided to create phishing campaigns, you can again say it will be a black box, oh sorry, gray box guys, it will be a gray box testing, correct? Awesome. So since we are talked about pen testers, obviously we consider pen tester equivalent to the threat actors, so that we can at least protect our system, and we'll consider that our systems are protected from these level of threat actors. So when I say threat actors, I mean to say what threat actors are. These are your malicious hackers, I would say, those who are having the not so good intentions, and those who wants to do some damage, correct? So those, like it is just the source of that threat, you can say, that will be considered as your threat actor. When we talk about threat actors are what these are the ones, those who perform those attacks, you can say, or those threats, correct? Those who poses those threats, kind of a source thing. So the people who will be doing these things, or those who will be posing those threats, right, or do that attack, correct? So internal, see, I was just looking out for the few keywords which was mentioned by Ranjit and whosoever is with the name M, right? So type like if you talk about internal threat actors, these are obviously the ones which are authorized or unauthorized. Correct, Praveen? Hold on. Authorized, right? Like those who have more permissions and have access to the inside the organization, right? So when these people do the attack, these are known as the internal threat actors. They can do it for whatever the reasons are there. They can be disgruntled employee, you can say, right? Those who are not happy with the organization, in short, correct, right? Those are not happy with the organization, so they are disgruntled, you can say, employee. So obviously, if they're not happy with the organization, if they're not being treated properly, they might be looking out for a revenge, and then in that revenge, they will try to destroy the company's reputations, try to do some damage to the company as well, right? That will be an internal one. Shoulder surfing, someone mentioned that social engineering one, that is good one. That is also part of your, you can say, an attack, social engineering attack, which can be performed by your internal threat actor, right? Are not those who are unauthorized, and those who do the attack from outside, right? Those who do not have any permission for the organization or their network, they'll be just performing from outside, like your normal hackers, you can say, correct? The malicious hackers, those who try to do the attack from the outside. Perfect. So see, as I mentioned, like as with the black, gray, white box strategy, they are effectively scoping an engagement, which involves determining what different type of attackers will be out there, right? So some organizations are primarily concerned with external threats, correct? So that's why we are talking about threat actor, right? So threat actor, it is an entity, you can say, which is partially or wholly responsible for an incident that will affect, or that affects, or has the potential to affect an organization's security. So they are also known as your malicious actors. Okay. So whenever you hear these terminologies, do not get confused. Threat actors or malicious actors, these are same thing. Okay. So we have internal, or you can say insider threat actor. Is it is the one that has been granted permissions on the system, right? So it involves someone from within the organization. So these insiders, they include present, or you can say someone also mentioned the ex-employee or the past employees, the contractors, partners, or any person that has access to your confidential information, right? Then we have external threat actors, or they can be someone not from inside the organization but from the outside, which can or that can enter to the security system of the company using malwares or social engineering that can be also performed by them, right? Fawzia Mujibuddin, hackers who use other scripts to perform an attack. Good one. Pankaj Krishna, they copy code and knowledge from hackers and use them. Okay, good one. Retrieve information about hacking, perform hacks based on information available from Google and all. Good one, Manushree. Atif, they don't know about the mechanism, how the application work. They just perform it, or they just perform the attack. Manushree consequences not. Okay. Noob hackers, okay, they don't know about the internal mechanism how application work. They just perform attacks, randomly known as scripted. Correct. Great. So, as mentioned by you guys, these are what? These are the novice, or you can say the inexperienced hackers with limited technical knowledge, and who really, or you can say who rely on automated tools to hack into the targets. So those who will just, as someone mentioned, GitHub copy paste, they'll just copy and pasting the scripts without knowing how they actually work or what they mean. They do not have to care about it. They just don't know about it. They just copy and paste it, and if it's run, it's good for them, right? So, like, I prefer to call them as a curious mind, right? They'll be a curious mind. So, script kiddies can be all those, like, finding a YouTube video, or finding an article on the Google, and just to impress their friends, their family members. That will be your script kiddies. Those are looking out, to access. You can say they'll be searching on the Google at how to hack the girlfriend's Instagram account and so all, like, these kind of a thing. So when they do not have, I would say in short, these are curious mind, and when they are not having any good knowledge about the tools, about the script, but still they are doing that. We always, share these memes about the web development part as well. Like, when we talk about web development, the web developers on the initial phase, like, when there are freshies, what they tend to do, like, we have a lot of platforms like Stack Overflow or GitHub. So we generally, copy and paste the code from there. If it works, great, right? If it doesn't, it will be a trouble, isn't it? So they, like, we have means like, do not ask from us like how it worked, just it's working, that's it. Like, we cannot just solve out and we cannot figure out what how it is working actually. It is just working, let it be. So this is the same, like script kiddies, like I have done this part in web development, that's why I'm saying from my experience. Like, we used to copy from the Stack Overflow is there, you raise your query, the Quora is there, GitHub is there, copy and pasting the codes. If it working, great. Otherwise, like, it will be a trouble. And, like, downloading entire theme from Google about, web page, just copy and, downloading it and using it. So don't know how it was made, how it was working, but just copy and paste and it started working for ourselves. So when we are, happy with that, that will be known as script kiddies. So that is why, like, if we talk about, the all those hackers, the proper one, black hat, white hat, APTs, you know these are one these are the ones which are, having a good amount of knowledge about the scripts, about the tools they are using, how to utilize it, how to use it. That will be known as your proper hackers. Script kiddies, curious mind, I would say, right? Hacktivist, this is basically divided into two terminologies: hack and activist. So what they do, they uh, gain the unauthorized access, right? They gain the unauthorized access and cause disruption, you can say, as you mentioned, in computer systems in attempt to, achieve a political or social change. So you can say when they have a political agenda to perform their attack will be known as a hacktivist. Make sense? Like, have you guys heard about this pretty famous group in US? There was a very big movement with the name Black Lives Matter. Correct? Ever heard about it? Right. Correct. So you might have seen that entire footage was also leaked out, and along with that, many previous records were also out. Such cases were out. Those details about that FBI department, you can say that was also out. Remember that, wasn't it? Then entire investigation happened and all that part. So who did that? Correct. So if you give it a read, you will also find about these things regarding anonymous group, right? So they were for a change, right? Social change, and they had this agenda of themselves, political agenda, you can say. And when they did for a cause, that will be known as a hacktivist. Authorized, non-malicious intent, who acts ethically. Good, 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 good. Authorized, yes, yes, correct. So we can say the one who goes by the book, or the one who goes by the rules, in short, right? Those who are not having any malicious intentions to do an attack, right? They do it for a good cause. So where will you put your pen testers? So APT, advanced persistent threat, as you guys have mentioned already, that is the correct one. Like you can say they use cybercrime to achieve, you can say, any political or military goals kind of a thing, right? So APT, they commonly use several attack vectors to ensure that their success in gaining unauthorized access to information, and as you also mentioned, they will remain in the system for a longer period of time. It will be that much sophisticated. They will try to hide into the system and remain it for a longer period of time so that they can get information, more and more information out of it, right? So this is a method or a pathway used by a hacker to access or penetrate the target systems, right? So hacker will steal information, data, and money from people and organization by investigating the known attacking vectors over there, right? Yes, you can say Paga, kind of a thing, right? Clear? So these are the methods or the pathways that is used by the hacker to access or penetrate the target system, right? Then we have black hat, we have already discussed. White hat, we have already discussed. So, like, your gray hat hacker guys, these are what they are, the blend of both, right? They'll be, they are blend of both black hat and white hat, you can say. These are the blend of both white hat hackers and a black hat hacker. So they can be, they are having a good intention as well as a bad intentions as well. So you can say, for example, being a hacker or gray hat hacker, let's suppose you are a gray hat hacker. You did some, you figured out there's a vulnerability in infosec train. Okay, you figured out that there is a vulnerability in infosec train website. Now you came to infosec train, you tell them and you told them that, okay, I found a vulnerability in your uh, website, which can be very malicious. So in return of that, you are just asking for a small reward, right? Which is fair and square, correct? You found a vulnerability, you are asking for a reward in return, right? Because you did some research on that. You because you are, like, right now you are having a good intention, isn't it? Because you're not exploiting that vulnerability, am I right? You're making aware, you're making infosec aware about the vulnerability which is present over there, so that they can be protected from any malicious hacker or any black hat hacker, right? So till now you are having a good intentions, right? So if you are saying, like, give me a reward for that, but infosec denied that. They said, we are not gonna give you any reward. Now what you did is, we can say, either you made that vulnerability public, or you went to the black market and sell it out. right? So when you set it out that vulnerability, obviously now someone will hack it. Then we have suicide hacker. Suicide hacker is very simple, I would say. Suicide hackers are the ones which are, those who know the outcomes, but they are still ready to go for it. Okay, like though they know that okay, there'll be life imprisonment, or they'll be facing a lot of, you know, years of sentence or fines, penalties will be there, but still they are gonna do it just for the name, fame, you can say whatever the reasons they have. That will be known as your suicide hackers. Then we have cyber terrorist. Cyber terrorist, why I've just placed this thing over here. Cyber terrorist, I would say, cyber terrorists will be the ones like where yeah, not suicide actually in cyber terrorists, where we'll be dealing with the loss of human life. Okay, like for example, that is Stuxnet, for example, right? Anyone heard about Stuxnet? Stuxnet, right? In Iran, the entire nuclear power plant was gonna get exploited, right? Yes, nuclear project, correct. So if that happened successfully, like if that attack happened successfully, by now many people might have lost their life, isn't it, guys? So, guys, the next thing is intent. Intent, as in what are their intentions, you can say, right? What can be the intentions of these threat actors, those who are performing these things, right? So, like intention can be anything, right? It can be greed or monetary gain, like for money, for it can be for power, it can for revenge, for blackmail, it can be either for thrills, like for their own reputation, they want to spread out the name or recognition, you can say, for that, right? Anything, or any political motivation can as well be the reason for these kind of for these threat actors, right? Correct. And since we are talking about pen testing and threat actors, we have the target selection. It can be anything. It can be either first party or third party. Do you know what do I meant by first party and third party? If you work for those external agencies, yes. So like we have some stakeholder, we have different business with the company as well, right? We have dealers and all that part, isn't it? Like for example, if your target is infosec train, like infosec train asks you to do the pen testing, so this will be your first party, correct? And now if uh you can say, if infosec train is having any, we can say, another company which they have their own business with, correct? If there is any other company which they have their business with, that will be known as what? That will be known as your third parties, right? No, for the no, no. If InfoSec train do another company, then this is third party. Not exactly, not exactly. I would say, right? Not exactly like that. Like if InfoSec train is linked up with another party, for example, if they are linked up with the Facebook as well, like if they have any deal, Facebook is a partner, business partner. Yes, exactly. Like for example, Aspirant is there. Okay, Aspirant is there, which is you can say the parent company kind of a thing, right? Of infosec trade. So what is there? Aspirant is also linked up with your infosec train, right? A parent company or so. So if I'm targeting aspirants, and through that I'm getting information about infosec train as well, so aspirants will be known as your third party. Makes sense, because they will be also containing infosec trains PII, isn't it? Their functionality, their business documents, their confidential information, that will be also contained, aspirants as well. Correct? Yes, Fuzzy, like if they are partners, correct. Business partner, you can say that thing. Let's talk about this. We can say social engineering attacks. So, guys, When we talk about social engineering, I told you one definition. So what do you understand by social engineering attacks? Social engineering, they can be also done by a pen tester as well, not just by the attackers. So these, the types of information pen tester are seeking, they can vary, like, but when individuals are targeted, the pen testers are usually trying to trick you into giving them your passwords or company information, or you can say access to the computers to secretly install malware software over there. Correct? That will be giving them again the access to your passwords, your bank information, company information, as well as giving them control over your computer. Correct? Like if I talk about social engineering tactics, why we use that? Because it is like, if you think about it, it is usually easier to exploit your natural inclination to trust than it is to discover ways to hack the software, isn't it? Like for example, if I ask you which is much more easier, is it easier to fool someone into giving you their password, or is it easier for you to try hacking their password? Which one is better, or which one is easier for you? Tell me. That will be known as a social engineering attack. So different types of social engineering attacks are there. The very first one is very popular, exactly Vignan mentioned by you, which is your phishing. So phishing is what, when you are sending, it's kind of a cybercrime in which, in which a target or the targets, they are contacted by email or by telephone or text messages, by someone posing as a legitimate institution to, you can say, lure the individuals into providing sensitive data such as their PIIs, personally identifiable information, their banking and credit card details, or password, etc., etc. Right? So you might have experienced once in your lifetime that you are getting an email, a malicious email, where the link is attached to it, right? Or any attachments will be there. So as soon as you click on that link, or as soon as you download those attachments, malware will be triggered, and then then you fell into the trap. So that will be a phishing. Phishing also has various types, I would say. Through SMS, exactly. Smishing is a phishing scam which is conducted via short message service, which is also known as the SMS. Right? So these crafty phishers, they send text messages that appear from the trusted senders, right? Like banks or any online retailers. For the baiting, yeah, baiting is there, but I kind of I understand what your point over here is. Yeah, you can include baiting word also over here. Correct. So you might have seen a lot of fake messages from your banks, or you can say you are getting from like, sir, ma'am, you won a lottery. Click on this link to avail your offer and all that part, right? So that will be your submission. Then we have one more, which is you are saying a lot, which is wishing. Wishing is what? Wishing is where we do what? Calls, exactly. So wishing is the combination of voice and phishing. You can say it is a telephone version of phishing in short, right? So in this technique, user will be using a spoofed caller ID that can make it attack, that can make this attack looks like they originate from a known number. So for example, I can, call Vignan, and when I'm calling Vignan, the number which will be displayed to him will be from, will be of Bhargav, right? So I can spoof that caller ID as well. And phishing attack, obviously they are on the rise, right? Pretty much popular. There is also a show on Netflix based on this thing, which is with the name Jamtara, right? So this pretty much, based on this, you can watch this movie. It's Wishing looks like very silly, and you might be thinking how people can fall for this trap. But let me tell you guys, this is a very skilled social engineering attack. The more you talk with these people, the more you get manipulated. Their choice of words, right? Their choice of words, their speech, their tone, their pitch is very manipulative, and they can, make you fall for the trap. Like I have experience wishing, like, you might be aware of that. There was a time when in India, when the bank people were saying that you have to, link your Aadhaar card with your bank account, right? There was a time, isn't it? So I got a call for that. That, sir, your Aadhaar card is not linked up with the bank, and then you have to, mention it, like, otherwise we'll be blocking your card. So you, like, do you want to continue using your card? I said, like, your account. I said yes, I definitely want to use it. Then I said, like, they tell me that you can do it today by itself over the call as well. So I told them, okay, yes, go ahead, please tell me. So they slowly asked me for the Aadhaar card number. I told them. Then, they'd ask for the account number. I told them for that account number as well. CVV, I guess I told that as well. Now they were giving me the speech. They were telling me that, sir, if someone asks you such things, do not reveal it. Okay. So we are from the authorized bank, so that's why we won't take an advantage of that. But if any individual or any other person calls it, do not do such things. I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, go ahead, tell me more. So eventually, after around 10 to 15 minutes of a conversation, they finally they asked me for an OTP. So see, when they are sending an OTP, no, it looks like they are sending it from the bank. It was SBI, if I yeah, it was from SBI Bank only. Like, they spoofed it, right? It looks like it is from SBI Bank only. So, you know, if when we are doing some transaction, we get different kind of a message for that, right? For the transaction. So they spoofed the entire message as well. It was not that look alike that I'm trying to do any transaction. But eventually, I was aware, like, luckily I was, knowing about these things already. So obviously I do not I will not share that OTP with them. So I started playing around with these guys. I told them, okay, I didn't get your OTP. They were like, sir, you must have got an OTP and all that part. I told them I am traveling in a metro. I am, might be some signal issue or that, like this thing and all that part. So they sent me again that OTP. So again, the same thing. Didn't receive any OTP. Then I said, okay, finally, like, after 5 or 6 tries, I told them an OTP, which was a wrong, wrong numbers, wrong figures were there. Then again, sir, it is not working. It is not working. I said, this is the one which you have sent to me and all that part. Now, finally, you can say, like, they were frustrated, and then, words were exchanged between them and me, and then finally they cut the call. But having said that, a couple of months back, my father also fell into this trap of wishing, and there was a transaction of around 30,000 INR, 20,000 INR from that account.